Meeting adjourned.
If there are no objections, we'll call the meeting of the Curriculum Instruction, Co-Curriculars and Personnel Committee to order. Meeting has been noticed. Evans Print and Media Group, WCOW Radio, Magnum Radio, La Crosse Tribune, Sparta City Hall, and Sparta Free Library. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
Take a motion to adopt the agenda. Hello,
If there are no,
Heidi.
aye. If there are no changes to the agenda, I move we adopt it as presented.
Okay, all right.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Business items. Item A, professional learning update. Ms. Kulig and Ms. Brueggemann together.
Hi, I'm going to take this one. If you have questions for Ms. Kulig, she can certainly answer those. This is just informational only. It's to give you a lens of the professional development we have throughout our district in many different categories, many different departments. Next slide, please, Mr. Stearman. So we have all staff requirements at the beginning of August through September. We have instructional professional development, technology, nutrition services, business services, and buildings and grounds. So we'll start with our all staff requirements. Every year, we have certain requirements that we have to do. Next slide, please. We have to do, and now it's much easier for us to track who's done those professional developments, if they've completed the necessary paperwork, if they've completed the videos and the quizzes. Here's a lens of some of the professional development that is embedded in our Skyward system. So as a staff member, when I go in and do the blood pathogens, I have to watch the video, I take a quiz, and that gives me my results, and then it sends it to the administration so they know that everyone has done the different requirements. If you don't do the requirements, you do get an email update letting you know you haven't done those. I might have gotten those once or twice. So it does give you a reminder for all staff. So we know we can ensure that all staff have gotten the requirements that are mandated either by our district or the state or the federal government. Next. We have many different instructional professional developments throughout the year, mainly focused in August. We've had many different things for our administrators and our leadership teams. We had a 2-day modern teacher with our strategy coach. We focused on culture, not only within our schools, within our classrooms. How can we better connect with our community, and really what that portrait of a Spartan is? What do we want our students to be able to know, understand, and do by the time they leave our buildings? And what do we want for our employees also? So we had great enriching conversations, and how do we move forward with those goals? We're doing a PLC reboot, which is our professional learning communities. We're bringing our administrators and our leadership teams together to make sure that we're all having the same goals. We're setting norms for our new staff and our new PLCs as we move through our school year. Our guaranteed and viable curriculum is our essential standards, our proficiency scales, what we're expecting our students to know. We're going to have an overview with our CISA 4 instructor and go through the next steps at each building because we're all at different places in that process. And then we had a cabinet retreat this week, which was very wonderful. Each principal and each director and leader gave a brief overview of the celebrations from last year and how can we take some of those strategies that we had last year and embed them into this next year. It was a great day, very focused, and you might be seeing some of those presentations throughout the year. Next slide. We give many opportunities for our teachers at many different grade levels. Some of the things that we've done, we've sent teachers to advanced placement classes to make sure that our advanced placement high school courses are enriching and that they are following the procedures. Technology, are closing the gaps. We're really to bring our teachers into how are we going to address any gaps that we have with our students as we move forward into next year. We looked at interventions, extensions, assessments. PBIS leadership has been virtual today and tomorrow for our PBS leadership teams. Again, that guaranteed and viable curriculum, the visible math.
What does PBIS stand for, Ms. Brueggemann?
Oh, of course,
Behavior-
positive behavior intervention.
Supports.
Yes. I should have written that, sorry.
No worries.
I'm not in charge of that one. I just support them doing it.
I know, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That's
I just
okay.
knew that there was some questions about that.
Thank you. And our visible math practices, the CISA 6 contract that you approved earlier in March, they're going to be coming in a couple weeks to give some professional development around our math practices. And we have a mentor training for the teachers that are mentors for our new teachers. Next slide. And our new teachers, we really want to support our new teachers here at Sparta. They are invaluable to our students and to our staff. So we have we've tightened up our onboarding procedures. They get to have 2 days in service. They meet the administrators. They learn about our district, our professional learning communities, what resources we have, the different buildings we have. We collaborate with their mentors and their leadership teams. They also are going to have a special technology training this year. And they've had the Skyward training with Ms. Dino to make sure that they're all prepared for the beginning of our school year. And we have special, for our special education teachers, our new special education teachers, they have other PDs that are offered to them, not only with our new teachers, but they really have to go through our IEP writing, our individual education program, the legal aspects of their special education, really understanding and how to use the assessment tools we have in our district, and that co-plan, co-serve model if they're a part of that within our high school. Next slide. Our paraprofessionals are very important to our students. We make sure they have high quality professional development also. The leveled literacy intervention, which is LLI, it's an intervention we use for reading at the younger levels. They are trained along with our teachers, so they have a good understanding of what guided reading is and how they can help support our students. They have technology, they're offered the technology training also. And then they were offered to go to the Paraprofessional Summit, which is through CISA 4, and you can see some of the highlights that are going to be at that training next week. That is going to take place at CISA 4. And we send both regular ed paraprofessionals and our special ed to all of these. Our technology department, of course, is learning all year long, but they do attend a brainstorming K-12 virtual conference. And that's really a conference where they see virtual vendor expos to get demonstrations of new technology. Some of the vendors that were there were Apple, Aruba, and Promethean. Our nutrition services also is involved in great professional development. When COVID hit, right before COVID hit, I'm sorry, they met with 16 Cooley Region school districts with over 350 nutritional professionals, and different topics that they were learning about is meal patterns, standardized recipes, program requirements, financial reporting. And we also do some district professional development with them. On the 24th of August, they will be spending the day learning about food and sanitation, health department inspections, civil rights requirements, and team building exercises. Our business services, again, does professional development throughout the year. Please don't ask me what all of those are. If you'd like, we can ask Ms. Hauser. But a variety of conferences that they attend to make sure that they are all ready throughout the year. In August, we always have a secretaries meeting that we just had last week. And we went over procedures. The bus company came in and talked to our secretaries. The school nurse talked to our secretaries, and student services. So we're all on the same page across the district with our secretary staff. And then finally, our buildings and grounds has an enriching professional development opportunities for their employees also. January 2021, they did online courses, and you can see the variety of different subjects that they were learning about, hearing, forklift training, protecting their back. And they also will do one in August. I believe theirs might be August 24th. And again, they'll talk about medical and first aid, bullying, trips and falls, and they always attend the WASBO Custodian Maintenance Conference in La Crosse. So there any questions about the professional development that we offer our staff throughout the year?
Just a reminder, this is just an update, so there's no action required, but any questions from the committee? Comments for Ms. Bergman or Ms. Cooley? Any questions, comments from non-committee members? Mr. Lukasik.
Ms. Bergerman, when you went through your chart there, maybe I need a little clarification on that. You started out with the teachers?
The instructional services, the teaching staff, yep.
Yeah, with the teachers. Is it my understanding that you went ahead and had each division with the new people in those divisions go through on your slides there? It's not the teachers going through the whole.
No, those
school.
are optional professional development opportunities we have in August for our teachers. They sign up to come. Not all teachers attend, but then we use our professional learning communities to make sure that all teachers are on the same page as we move forward through the school year. For the Closing the Gaps, for example, at the beginning of August, we had team leaders, we had two to four people per grade level, so they could have collaborative time to determine what are different strategies we can use for different interventions in reading and math, so we can address some of the needs of our students. And we had that talk not only with our grade level, but then if I was a third grade teacher, I talked to the second grade team that was there, and I also talked to the fourth grade team, so we can really come together to meet the needs of our students. And they will bring back the information to their professional learning communities when we meet every week. As a team, they will bring back the information, they will talk about strategies and what the work that they did in the summer.
I guess I wasn't real clear on my
Okay.
question. What I'm concerned about is a new teacher coming in on board, and we're one big happy family. That new teacher needs to know who the school police officer is.
We do that with.
Is everybody that's new given all the information so that they're welcomed? That's I guess
Got
the
you.
best question.
We spend 2 days with our new teachers that are required, that are hired prior to our new teacher in service. And that happens the 17th and 18th of this month. And we give them a full day with administrators. They'll go to all the buildings. We'll do a mini tour with them. We will discuss the resources. They will have a lens of all of our district, and then they have a day also with their principal and in their building with their mentor. So day 2, they go to their buildings and we make sure that they see their classroom, that they get to meet with their mentor or their team to be able to be ready for that school year. Each new teacher has a mentor, which that mentor helps them all year long, actually all their whole career really here, because you become pretty close with your mentor to make sure that any questions I have throughout the year, and then each month they have a list of things that they are targeted to talk about, but with our professional learning communities, everyone's kind of a mentor for our new teachers.
Thank you.
So,
Mhm.
and just on the 25th, we do an all staff in service. So I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Where everybody, all the different employee groups get introduced. We all hear the same message. We all get to see each other. We recognize all our new teachers, and they get to see 400 of us at once. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And we did have new teachers at many of our offerings for our teachers. So I've already got to meet many of our new teachers, and they're excited, and we're excited to have them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Bergman. If you notice also, they've been featured on Facebook, which is really nice, I think. And I also want to thank Mr. Leiden because he went back through all of our agendas in the last few years and found, frankly, very seldom that we had any instructional or curricular information at our board meetings. And so now I've been assured that we're going to have these regularly. And, I think really that's a great deal of what we're about here. So thanks to both Ms. Cooley again, Ms. Bergman. We appreciate it.
Thank
Item B, discussion and possible recommendation to approve the Sparta Area School District Board of Education as the expulsion hearing officer under consensus. And that under consensus has been added by Ms. Wilcox to help us realize which of these things can be listed for the full board meeting under consensus. Just a reminder that it doesn't have to be that way, and even at that point, it can be pulled out later, but it just helps us structure our full board meeting. So, Dr. Van Duren.
Expulsions are heard either by the board or an independent hearing officer. An independent hearing officer is someone who is hired to represent the Board of Education for the year to hear expulsions. Typically what happens in that model is the IHO hears the expulsions, makes a determination and a sentence, yes or no, guilty or not, and how much time, and then brings that recommendation to the board with the synopsis of the events leading up to the expulsion. And then the board has the final vote on that. That frequently works in districts that are larger. There have been districts that I've been involved in that hear upwards of 100 expulsions in a year. And so that comes to the point where, it's just too much for the board to handle, and it becomes very difficult to get that consistency. We've heard, I believe, two, maybe two that I remember in my time here, less than one a year. So the board has heard them, and every year we have to confirm if that's the direction we want to go. I would recommend that we stay the course on that. Anymore, when we do an expulsion, I will be hiring an attorney to make sure all of the timelines and things are met, because we do them so infrequently. We want to make sure we're correct on all the notifications, because it's days that things have to go back and forth. Next slide, please. So we're looking for that recommendation.
Any questions from committee members for Dr. Van Duren?
I was just gonna ask what that cost is for when you hire the lawyer to, and realize we're having infrequent expulsions, but what does that look like every time?
This is a time that I use a local attorney, somebody in the area that does them. And the bill is in the $1,000 range. And I would say it's not that much different than the cost to have an IHO hear the thing, but we'd still have to prepare it. So I think we're doing it in a way that is cost effective, keeps the board connected to the issues, and ensures that we follow all of our due process.
Thank you.
So if there are no other questions, any questions from non-committee members? No questions, we'd be looking for a motion.
I move that the committee recommends to the Board of Education the expulsion proceedings that may occur during 2021, 2022 school year be placed on consent.
Second.
Motion by Heidi, second by Colin. All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Item number C, discussion and possible recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 co-curricular code for Sparta High School and Meadowview Middle School, which can be placed under consensus. Dr. Van Duren.
And I'm going to toss this one over to Mr. Blaha.
Good evening. What you should see are a copy of the Sparta High School co-curricular code that was approved in August of 2020. And then I did not have a date on the middle school co-curricular code that was attached when that was approved. There were no recommendations for either. So pending your questions, not recommending that we would need anything on either change at this time.
I have a couple things, Nancy.
Can I just ask for a quick synopsis, please?
Sure. The co-curricular code, in the shortest way I can put it, is meets the requirements, for the most part, what the WIAA requires of us for our athletics. They direct a few things at us. Since we're member schools both at the high school and at the middle school, they direct we must have consequences for certain violations. So if you have a felony, if you have a alcohol, tobacco, vaping, if you have a police interaction violation, there must be some consequence. They do not direct the consequence, so that's what our code spells out. They also have a separate portion that we must address as far as attendance, and then a portion that deals with academic eligibility. And then we must also address who is eligible based upon where you live and where you attend. Is that what you're looking for, Ms. Prestwood?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Burns Gilbert had a question?
Yeah, I just was, so just so I understand, so this is written for the students that are participating, their code that they have to sign and agree to in order to do both athletics and other extracurriculars, right, outside of sports?
Yes, it is for the parents and participants in co-curriculars. So so far this year, we've had 2 meetings. We had one last night, and then we had one the week prior. And then we take about 30 minutes and go through with all our participants what the code, how it exists, if that's answering your question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you walk them through that in that space?
In that 30 minutes, we hit the high points, what the code covers, and then we also talk about what the code does not cover. So for instance, example would be sportsmanship, right? There may be a part, but we tell what the coach should be talking about or their advisor. An incident in a classroom, right? We always want it dealt at the lowest level, and we kind of go through those question answers in a little bit of the situations.
Okay. When I read through this, it was very heavy on targeted towards student athletes, and then group 2 and group 3, like the other extracurriculars, seemed like they were kind of just added in there. So I wonder if, I don't know if this needs to happen now, but a suggestion might be to rewrite that language so that those other students that aren't doing student, right, like athletics, are included in the entire document with that language and those references and how it's kind of phrased. That was just one kind of overarching suggestion I would have. So reduce some of that like favoritism and raising, right, student athletes on a pedestal when we have a lot of really powerful extracurricular experiences that don't involve student athletes. So that was one piece I would recommend. Other questions I had under the sportsmanship, 506.2, there was a space on there about social media, and so represent their school community at all times. And so that was one that I was hoping that we could revisit. There's a Supreme Court case a couple months ago with a cheerleader that was Snapchatting and saying some bad things, and the Supreme Court said that they can do that and not be punished by the school district. And so I don't know if how that applies to us in this specific document, but that would be one worth looking over again so that we're not holding our students accountable to something that we can't do, if that makes sense.
Are you asking how it applies? Did you want me to define how it applies?
Yeah, can you expand
Yeah,
on that?
sure. So the cheerleading incident Supreme Court looked at, right, was directed at cheerleader that posted basically an F word, but it was not directed at a specific person or group. So the Supreme Court said because it was, gave a very narrow ruling on that, in order for a district under that ruling, it must discriminate specifically against a person or group, or it must be bullying. But in the end, part is the language that they use would say must cause some type of disruption, typically in the learning. So they have given a case study on what it now means, and I don't have that checklist on me. I couldn't find it, but OSA does have that. And if we would look at something like that, we would, I'm sorry, also as Association of Wisconsin School Administrators, they have a checklist that their legal team that we would use if and when we use any type of free language type of lost for words, if we would have to bring that up on free speech. So
there's some.
yes, there's a
processes
checklist
in
of
place.
if, so based on that new Supreme Court ruling.
Okay.
So it's pretty hard to meet that ruling, but basically it has to be bullying, hazing, and has to be directed at someone specifically.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have many more, I promise. Sportsmanship award. Can you just clarify? I read this, and the more I read it, I think I just confused myself.
Sure.
So it was 2 varsity letters and participated in 8 seasons, right, to qualify?
So that is our Sparta Coaches Association given award, and that's just explaining that they may be eligible for an award from our Sparta Coaches Association. And currently the Sparta Coaches Association does something to promote student athletes that participate in multiple sports. That's what their current language is. They did change it 2 years ago.
Okay.
That is
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Blaha. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from non-committee members? Go ahead.
Give an example. Who, besides athletics, what other groups would be using this form?
So the co-curricular, as Mr. Burns-Gilbert said, that it's broken into 3 groups.
Yep.
Again, right now, as stated, it's primarily focused to meet the requirements that the WIA places on us, but it does also address our competitive clubs and then our non-competitive clubs. Most of our competitive clubs, right, FBLA, DECA, FFA, they have their own constitutions and a long laundry list of rules. We don't put them in there because they apply only to that club. But those tend to be our level 2. And then there would also be things like dance and cheer, robotics. So any activity to include commencement speaker, homecoming court, our past practices due to concerns have led to those activities being placed in there.
Okay.
It is reviewed. Typically every 2 years we go through a review process. And then we get input from the community, coaches, parents. And as we have issues as we go each year, those are recorded and then we bring them up for changes.
Yeah, I also feel it feels very athletic heavy, even on the signature lines and who it should be turned into and such. Does it all have to be under one form, or could there be two separate forms? Being that this one athletics needs to be so directed by WIA.
There could be separate ones if that's what.
So
Again, our high school has not in the past, since I have been here, has not had separate ones,
Okay.
but there may have been before.
Sure.
Most districts around us have a single one. An example would be, I'll use Thomas. Thomas is a board policy, right? They take it, they make it a board policy, which is very common. And it does look very similar, but we can look at others if that's something that's being directed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess based on discussion, I would ask the committee what the feeling is, if we are feeling like we can go forward on this, if I can get a motion in a second, or if we need to send it back.
I feel that we need to send it back, just pending all the discussion that we just had in regards to the sports versus the non-sports and it being so athletic heavy. I think we need to make sure that we're incorporating all those other clubs and all those other groups that this refers to.
Mr. Burns-Gilbert?
Yeah, I would move it forward with that suggestion.
Okay, a problem that I have though is how we leave Mr. Blaha in the lurch here a little bit. How does that affect you No
Does
problem.
not currently, since we
Okay.
have an approved 2020 document.
Okay,
You would give me guidance to, as I understand it, to separate into two separate documents. Is that correct?
That sounds
Yes.
right.
okay.
Yep.
So what do we think about Meadowview Middle School's document? Are we willing to get a motion and a second to send that forward? I guess that's my question.
Meadowview?
Yeah.
That one, yeah, looked good.
Okay, then we'd be looking for a motion to approve the Meadowview Middle School's co-curricular code.
Motion, so moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 3-0 to send to the full board the Meadowview Middle School co-curricular code and to send back the high school co-curricular code to come back to us again. We want to have a date on that? I guess maybe it's fair, most fair to ask Mr. Blaha what's reasonable.
So typically, I would like, we run through a couple seasons to get input from parents and participants. We did not do that last year.
Sure.
Ideally, I'd like to be able to run through at least a half a year so I could get a couple seasons, fall, winter. That would get some club input on it. Ideally, you'd like a full year so I could get all our clubs to have participation and how that would best fit them, along with parent participation. So when we would do our winter meetings, we would bring that up, give them some samples, and then they could also take a look at their constitutions to make sure whatever we do would fit their needs.
Okay.
That sounds
I can have it as soon or as often.
I personally, I think that's reasonable if the committee supports that. So we would essentially then be asking you to use your existing approved policy for another year. And then a year from now.
Mhm.
All
I'd
right,
have to agree with that. If we keep the current policy as is and then we make those changes over the next year, I think that would be sufficient.
okay,
Make a motion for that.
all right. We have a motion to revisit this in 1 year. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 3-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Blaha.
Thanks.
Okay, and I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Ha.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.